All right, special treat. You've asked for it. You got it. Rick and Tom back on the air. Tom Jones, my former radio partner, longtime columnist at Tampa Bay Times, now with Poynter Institute, will join me in just a minute. But first, a little bit of news out of the Buccaneers. They had Zach Robinson, the former Falcons offensive coordinator, in a in-person visit on Wednesday, as they have begun now to shrink the group of candidates for offensive coordinator. And that group will include former Titans head coach Brian Callahan, who is expected to have an in-person visit later today. And then also just the other day, they interviewed Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, who did a virtual interview on Wednesday. So I think all three of those guys are in the mix. They're still kind of, I guess you could say, waiting on Todd Monken, who's a candidate for the Cleveland Browns head coaching job, although it seems for all the world that if he doesn't get that job, he's going to join John Harbaugh with the New York Giants. So I think by the end of the week, there's a chance that this thing could get done maybe before the weekend. We'll have to see who else they have to talk to, but they're bringing back guys now in person. And, look, on this list, you've got a couple guys that have called plays. And so that's an upgrade over what they've had each year. When they hired Dave Canales, he had never called plays in the NFL. When they hired Liam Cohen, he had never called plays in the NFL. He did it at Kentucky. Josh Grizzard, first-time play caller in the NFL, even though he was on the staff. This time, you at least have two of these guys in Zach Robinson and then, of course, the former Titans head coach Brian Callahan, who have had the headset. They've called plays in the league. And then Dan Pitcher, who's been in Cincinnati his entire career, worked his way up to offensive coordinator, but the head coach there, Taylor, calls the plays. So this would be new for him, but he's still a very experienced guy. So I tend to think with Mike McDaniel now headed to the Chargers, with most likely a situation where Todd Monken goes to the New York Giants, they well might decide on one of these three guys. And look, I think any of them would be a good choice. I think Robinson might have the edge because if you think about it, he's a guy that has worked with Baker Mayfield the way Liam Cohen did out with the Rams during those 5 weeks that he was there several years ago. He has familiarity with this division. He's been in the NFC South now for a couple of years. They had an elite offense this past year, and obviously they have really good players to boot. But he's only 39 years old. He's one of those disciples of Sean McVay. But this past year, they were 6th in total offense, 5th in passing, and 10th in rushing. And, of course, they had the big injuries to their quarterback, and had to put in Kirk Cousins, and Michael Penix Jr., went on IR and stuff. So he's done a good job. He's absolutely killed these guys when they played him in Todd Bowles' defense. So I don't know. I think if we get to the end of the week and we find out Monken is going back to the Giants or something like that, you could well have a hire of their offensive coordinator. So we'll see. I want my life back, so I'm sure they do too. I can't wait till they finally get that thing done. Hey, before we get to Tommy, I want you guys to get on down to Breitling Boutique. You know where that is. I was in the mall the other day, and I'm telling you, what a great store. Second floor, International Plaza Mall. The Breitling Company has been making Swiss watches now for over 140 years. They've been in this location in International Plaza on the second floor for going on 6 years. Now, when you go up there, you're going to get great customer service. That store is unbelievable. Go in there, spend some time. Man, they're going to pour you a drink. They're going to tell you about all their great timepieces, the Chronomat watches, the Navitimer for men, ladies' watches. These are sports watches, incredibly beautiful, durable, all kinds of different color wristbands to choose from. And as you approach the front of the store on the left-hand side, you're going to see the big words, the shield, NFL. And they've got about 5 different teams. They're doing an NFL collection to celebrate the NFL's 104th year anniversary. 32 different teams, 32 different team watches while supplies last. There's about 4 or 5 of them in the window, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're Chronomat watches for men. They got the the face of the watch with the team colors, the logo. These things are collector's items. They're absolutely gorgeous. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, special treat. The holidays are over. It's time to reconnect with my buddy, my former pal, longtime columnist at Tampa Bay Times. You can read him on poynter.org. It's Tom Jones joins us today. Hey, Tommy, what's up, buddy?
How's it going? I'm telling you, I'm coming in hot. I'm coming in hot right away. I'm getting ready to jump somebody right away.
Okay.
And it's Steve Versnick. Okay.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
What?
So, okay, yeah. Here's the deal.
Off the top rope.
Look, Steve has done a lot for you and I, Rick. He was the first one to see us as radio guys. Made Rick and Tom possible, the greatest radio show in the history of Tampa Bay sports radio.
To this day.
And he wishes me a happy birthday on my birthday. Every now and then he'll send me a text. Hey, how you doing? Just, hope everything's well. But the last two texts he has sent me, okay, this one, I caught it up on my phone right now, 12:11 p.m. on Saturday, January 10th. And it's just a tweet from Let's Talk Penn State podcast. I know he doesn't follow Let's Talk Penn State podcast, but as I think everybody knows, I'm a big Penn State fan, always been. It's my favorite team in all of sports. And it says Indiana has more top 10 wins this season than James Franklin had his entire 12-year Penn State career. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, you want to give me that one? Fine. Okay, that's fine. And then I don't hear from him until last week. He's like, hey, can you come on the pod next week? I'm like, yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to. And then that's all I hear until, again, yesterday, sends a text to you and I, Rick, that says, for the last 3 years, Penn State has lost by single digits. This is another tweet that somebody tweeted out. And it points out how Penn State has come close to beating each of the last three national champions. And then, of course, Steve has to add his little 2 cents on there. Then why fire James Franklin? Hang the banners now. So two of the last 3 texts I've heard of Steve in the last month have been giving me a hard time about Penn State football. What gives, man? What the hell?
Yeah, I'll let him speak for himself, and then I'll give you some ammunition to fire back at him.
Okay.
Well, you've got ammunition too. Let's bring it on. Let's go.
No. We'll get to that in a minute.
No, you respond. He's put out the challenge. Now you respond to that.
What did I do to you? I don't give you a hard time about anything. And all of a sudden, you guys are both of you guys. I'm not going to let Stroud off the hook either.
Oh,
he's always he laughed at Steve's little text the other day.
I did. Thought it was kind of funny.
The last tweet was saying how good James Franklin was. I mean, the last 3 national champions, he lost by less than a touchdown.
Hang the banners? Oh, that was what was that?
Maybe that was a shot. That was a shot.
It's all a shot. I'm telling you, I'm coming to you guys for therapy. As you know, for 1,000 years, I was a sports writer. And whether people out there believe it or not, Rick will back me up. You lose your allegiances. You don't have any allegiances when you cover sports. So I lost all my allegiances. But one of the great things when I went to Poynter 7 years ago now, it's hard to believe it's been that long, that it's also hard to believe you guys have been doing the pod that long.
Yeah, I was going to say that just harkens back to the meeting we had to do this pod.
That's right. So but one of the good things about going to Poynter was that I could start to follow. I mean, I've always loved sports, even when I was covering it, but now I could start to enjoy teams again. So who are my teams? Penn State football, Pittsburgh Steelers football. Oh, by the way, they're just fired. Not fired, but lost their coach. Just the third one, basically, of my entire life. Oh, Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, which hasn't been to a World Series since 1979. And I'm actually an NBA fan, and since I didn't have a team growing up, I've sort of adopted the Knicks as my team. And I was told the Knicks that Tom Thibodeau was the problem, and now they can't win a game. So this is where I'm stuck. And then I got to get texts from my buddy Steve, give me a hard time about Penn State football. It's a nightmare for me to be a sports fan right now.
Well, let me go find some Steelers and Pirates tweets for you then too.
I thought it'd be pretty simple, Tom, if you just want to start talking about Michigan coaching.
Oh, that's a good one.
More stories coming out.
Although, as a longtime
Players
Penn State fan,
blackmailing the coach.
I think I'll stay away from that. I was going to say,
yeah.
I think I'll stay away from.
We won't go back to Joe Pop, but that's yeah.
So anyway, I'm living a sports nightmare. I think I'm now paying for all the success that the Pittsburgh teams had during my formative years when it was
Weir
the 1970s.
family, Pittsburgh Pirates,
I mean, the Pirates and Steelers, you couldn't ask for a better decade. For me, ages 6 to 16, which is the greatest time to be a sports fan because that's all you care about.
Right.
But now I'm paying for it now for the rest of my life. So.
Well, I mean, if that's the worst thing that happened, it's not too bad.
No, but it's a top now. The Tomlin thing, I know you guys have probably talked about it a lot. Like,
Oh no, I wanted to get your take.
you know
Listen,
what?
I think before you go, let me
Yeah,
just
go
say
ahead.
this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, I don't think Mike Tomlin's ever coaching again.
Really?
Maybe he does. No, I don't think he ever coaches again. Maybe
He
does
goes
TV.
the Bill Cowher route, huh?
Maybe, but maybe not. But maybe, right? Like, he might even not even do that, right? I just think the guy's freaking over it. But to be, and you can make fun of the 500 seasons and the losing in the first round and all that stuff, but to be ushered out of Pittsburgh after 18 years with the chance of fire Mike Tomlin, like, come on, Steeler fan, like have some class, right?
Look, it was time. I think it was time.
And I think he knew it was time.
He knew it was time.
Yeah.
I get that. For me, and let's be clear about this, as somebody who's followed the Steelers, forever, they didn't have a coaching problem. They had a quarterback problem, and they have a quarterback problem.
Correct.
And the quarterback problem goes back to like 2 years before Ben Roethlisberger retired.
Yeah, because he should have gone out of the game then.
Absolutely. But he stuck around 2 years, which sort of put him behind the 8 ball. And then they tried Kenny Pickett, overdrafted him, then Russell Wilson, and then Justin Fields. And then, the weird thing is, like, they probably got better quarterback play this past season with Aaron Rodgers than they did for the last, like, 5 years or so.
That's true.
But for the Steelers, the issue, and the funny thing is they were the only team in football over the last 5-6 years before Rodgers got there that they would come out on first down and complete 3 straight passes, and it was 4th and 6. Like, every pass was a 2-yard pass. So it was a quarterback issue. But I just think the whole franchise needs a reboot. They're not going to get his coach as good as Tomlin, I don't believe. But I hate to say it, they need to go 3-14 one of these years, if they're going to really
that's the only way
find
you
a
can
way,
get a quarterback. Yeah, pretty
much. Or also, if you were to totally get lucky,
steal somebody else's,
like a Sam Darnold comes in, or somebody like that, or I don't know what's the dude from Green Bay? What's Malik Willis?
Like, Malik Willis is a guy that some teams are looking at. Sure,
it could be available. Like, I don't know if that works, but it's just it. The problem was Mike Tomlin was too good for the Steelers to get bad, which is what they have to do to get good again, to get really good.
Right.
So it's just, it got frustrating, and I understand the Steelers fans' frustration. It gets frustrating to get knocked out, and those games weren't even competitive. That's the other thing, Rick. They went 0-7 in their last 7 playoff games. I think they've been down 21 points in every one of those games at some point.
Yeah,
that's just embarrassing. And this past year, they had no chance against a Houston team that was.
Oh my God! What that defense did to Aaron Rodgers and those guys. Oof.
As I told somebody I know, I say, so what about the Steelers tonight? This is the day of the game. I said, they're going to make Aaron Rodgers look 70 years old. and that person sent me a text later that night. In fact, it was our Neil Brown, our old boss, my current boss, your old boss.
That's right.
He sent me a text. He goes, "You were wrong. He looked 80 years old tonight." I'm like, that's exactly right. So it's
anyway, I guess it would depend on the coach. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers is accepted back as their quarterback next year.
It sounds like he wants to come back. If I were him, that would be it. You've already sort of gotten rid of the bad taste of the last 2 seasons with the New York Jets, right? I mean, that was you show up in New York, you tear your Achilles, then you have a next season which didn't look good for anybody. You got the coach fired. It looked like a mess. It looks like he was going to limp out. He came back this year, actually won 10 games, got the team into the playoffs. You could go out on that note. But I hear if you're Rick, if you're running the Steelers, if you're Omar Khan, how do you go about fixing this thing? Who's going to be your coach? And you don't have to name like exactly a person, but do you go the veteran route like a Mike McCarthy, or do you go young? And then what do you do at quarterback? Do you bring Rodgers back for a year, see what you can string together? Or do you say, like, no, we got to start from the bottom, go with the kid from Ohio State, Will Lewis?
Well, they've had 3 coaches in 50 years. And that's what makes them uniquely the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's harder to do that in this day and age, we live in this microwave society and all of that. If you could hire Mike McCarthy, but how long is he going to be there? And you kind of know what you're going to get. I mean, he's a good coach. He's won a Super Bowl. He knows what it looks like, right? He did okay in Dallas. He's still going to need the same thing any other coach would need, which is a quarterback. I almost would be like, just genuinely be the Steelers, right? Go find a guy that maybe not everybody would hire at this time. Maybe a Nate Shieldhouse with the Rams. Maybe a guy in his 30s that can grow into the job. And so what if you take your lumps the first year or two? Maybe you get down low enough in the draft, or high enough in the draft, I guess you would say, to find your franchise quarterback. But yeah, I think any team that's in their position is going to have to keep turning it over, trying to find, that guy on his second or third team, like a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold. There's guys out there, right? There's guys out there that you can find, and until or unless they stumble on a first round pick or a guy that's having a great second or third, chance. But I don't want them to go against what they've been, because I think that's what makes the Steelers great. It's what makes their ownership great, is that they'll identify a young coaching talent, and then they'll let him learn and develop on his own, and
that's I think you're exactly right. If you look at their last three hires, which, like you said, you have to go back 50
unbelievable
years. Yeah. So they hired Chuck Noll when nobody really knew who Chuck Noll. In fact, when they hired Noll, the first choice was Joe Paterno. And Paterno had gone to bed. Everybody went to bed thinking that Paterno was going to be the coach the next morning, and he changed his mind overnight and decided to stay at Penn State.
It did not start well for Chuck Noll.
No, in fact, the first year he won his very first game and then lost the next 13.
That's
right. But they had drafted that first year. They had drafted Joe Green, and you built your defense around him. Kind of reminds me of the Bucs, building around Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp. And then the next year he had the top pick, and he took Terry Bradshaw with the top pick.
Not bad.
And then off you go. And then they hired Bill Cowher, who was pretty unknown. I think he was
special teams coach for Kansas City.
Yeah, 32, 34 years old at the time. Yeah. The Steelers, they were sort of mid-range, but it didn't take them long to get back. And then as far as Tomlin, nobody saw Tomlin coming. I didn't see Tomlin coming. You may have, you knew Mike Tomlin.
I knew he's a good coach. I mean, he was excellent. He took over from Lovie Smith with the Bucs, and at that time, Monty Kiffin had a great eye for young coaching talent. Hell, Mike Tomlin coached at Arkansas State, if that tells you anything. That's where he kind of began. He was at Cincinnati as a linebackers coach, and Lovey, got a head coaching job, and then, he didn't get a head coaching job. He got the defensive coordinator's job with the Rams, first and foremost. So he left Tampa Bay, and then they brought in. I'm not talking Mike. I'm talking about Herm. He replaced. Let's see. No, he coached. Tomlin coached defensive back. So Herm left. Right. Herm left, and so he replaced Herm. But he was like 33 years old, 32 years old, maybe, if that. Maybe even younger than that. I think Rondy Barber might have him by a couple months. And, so anyway, young, brash, talked exactly like he does now, wasn't afraid of anything or anybody. And him and Raheem were young coaches together, and they ran like crazy, like young guys would. But, just had a presence. I mean, had a presence about him. And, man, he just took off. And then, after he left the Bucs, he actually, I believe he was in Minnesota one year as a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
And doing very well. And then all of a sudden, if you remember, the Rooney started the Rooney Rule, right?
That's right.
And where you had to at least interview one minority candidate. I think he might have been part of that, but they wound up hiring the guy.
You're 100% right about this. You're 100% right about this. In fact, when Cowher kind of left, all of a sudden, nobody saw that coming.
No.
And so when he stepped away, everybody thought that Ken Wisenhunt was the offensive coordinator.
That's right.
They thought he was going to get the job. And then all of a sudden, things went south quickly there, and he ended up taking the Arizona job.
He went to Arizona and took a bunch of coaches like Russ Grimm and a bunch of guys.
Yeah, well, and that Russ Grimm was the other guy that everybody in Pittsburgh wants, because that's the way Pittsburgh is, and it's also the way every other city is. It's like, oh, we know that guy. He went to college here. Let's give him the job.
He's a good fella.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's one of us. So they he knows where Permani Brothers is at. Okay, great. So that's sort of the funny thing when USF had a coach's opening. Like everybody's like, oh, let's give it to Anthony Beck, because he can get from USF to Raymond James. He doesn't. Yeah, Rich Versace. He doesn't need a GPS to get from Raymond James to the campus. But
exactly.
But so you're right though. They brought in Tomlin as sort of the to meet the requirements of the Rooney Rule, and then they hired him. And that's the crazy. You mentioned his age. He was with the Steelers for 19 seasons. He's 53 years old.
He's 53. I was going to say he's as young as Ronde Barber, who I don't consider very old at all. And yeah, and he's coached 18 seasons. But and I saw him in training camp. He was funny, man. He walked to me, "This Stroud, hey man, you've been doing this. You've been doing as long as me, man. How long are you gonna do?" I was like, "No longer, Mike." But you could tell, like it's the grind. I can't. You've been around it, but the grind of a head coach, right? These days, especially the way the league is, right? There's almost no time there's no downtime in the off season. I mean, right now, and maybe through their own fault, guys like Todd Bowles for the 5th straight year are going to spend the few weeks they could have had off interviewing coaches, right? And so you go from that. The combine is 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, which is 2 weeks away, and you're right into the off-season workout program. Well, first you go into free agency, then the draft, then the off-season workout program. I mean, it's ridiculous, So to do that for 18 seasons in the same place, I mean, just incredible. It's an incredible run. I think he's just in talking to Ronnie Barber and others. I don't think he wants to coach again. I think he's got all the coaching out of him. Yeah,
I would not. I know when Cowher left, and they said, okay, he's going to do TV for a year, and then
he was asked to come back a million times.
I was going to say, like a year or two after that, the Giants job came open. I forget which coach that was for,
right?
But and then I think everybody thought he was going to end up in Carolina at some point because I think he makes his home in Charlotte in the offseason, or did.
I know the Bucs looked into him a few times. I don't know how close they got, but I know that they had an interest.
So you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if he shuts it out. Or I mean, you could just, if you're Tom, and say, look, if the perfect job comes over,
of course,
I'm not just going to take it. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there now. If you're, I don't know. So I'm trying to think of somebody like Robert Saleh just took a job, the Tennessee job. I'm not sure that's a good, but if you're Robert Saleh, like you're not going to be real choosy if you get an offer a head coaching job. It sounds like Mike McDaniel was a little more choosy with his situation.
Yeah, although I don't know that this cycle he actually was offered a head coaching job. He pulled his name out of Cleveland. I don't think he's a fit for Pittsburgh. I don't know how the Capri's would go over in that steel town. So I think McDaniel's in a situation where, he's going to get paid by Miami. It doesn't really matter where he goes as far as being a coordinator or not. There's going to be an offset in his contract. So for him, it's just about going someplace, coaching good ball again, and becoming the hottest guy next year.
Right.
But I would say this, and only he knows, of course, but John Harbaugh, who essentially got fired, right, by the Baltimore Ravens, became the belle of the ball, okay? And he took, the New York Football Giants and Jackson Dart and all that, but for one more week. Could he have dragged it out one more week? Don't you think that the most plum opportunity is the Buffalo Bills? Nobody circles the wagons.
Well, so let me ask you about that. First question, I know you talked about this on a pod a little bit the other day. How surprised were you that Sean McDermott got fired? And how who should they go at? Who, if you were the Bills, if you're running the Bills, who's the right coach for you?
I wasn't incredibly surprised. I didn't like necessarily what the owner said, which was, I made up my mind after that game on Sunday, or Saturday, whatever it was.
Right.
After the AFC Championship game. Okay. And there's no way around this. Like, you're the victim of your own success at some point, right? Tony Dungy was that in Tampa. Okay. Took a team from nowhere, made the playoffs 4 out of 6 years, couldn't get them over the hump, right? Got them to a championship game, kept losing in Philadelphia, yada, yada. And then it just comes a point that the ownership feels like we just need a different voice. We just need, we need somebody, because we have, in this case, they had a generational defense. In the Bills' case, they have a generational quarterback. But my God, the quarterback had 5 turnovers in that game. He threw 4 interceptions, I think.
4, and he missed 3 passes that, like, he missed the one at the end of regulation to Knox that I think would have been a touchdown if he hit Stroud.
Right.
There's the other one in overtime where he threw it like off the guy. He threw a worm burner practically.
Yeah.
And then the pass that was like the controversial interception, which, by the way, was an interception, if you ask me. But that was underthrown. Any of those passes, they win the game, I think.
Right. And so I think because you feel like the clock is ticking really loudly on a guy like Josh Allen, that you feel this sort of this impulse to do something. I don't know if it's going to be any better. I mean, it looks like Brian Daboll, who was their offensive coordinator, got fired by the Giants. It looks like he would have kind of an inside track. Your quarterback has to be on board, I think, with the.
Well,
with
that's
the,
what here's the part that I confused me about McDermott. Like when you look at Baltimore, Rick, from the report, like who knows? We don't know. We're not there, but it sounded like there was some sort of disconnect between Harbaugh and the locker room, or at least between Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. That relationship had run its course, and so you could see it. It's why, okay, Baltimore. I like John Harbaugh. Who doesn't? Everybody thinks he's a great coach, but I could see where maybe Baltimore ownership was thinking, okay, you know what, this isn't working anymore. I didn't get that sense in Buffalo, like the players had revolted or were tired of McDermott's voice.
No, I think
as soon as they fired him,
Yeah.
it sounds like everybody came out like, oh, no, like I know Josh Allen hasn't really spoken yet, but it sounded like everybody was just kind of like, no, what are we doing? We love this guy.
Okay, same exact reaction when Tony Dungy was fired here.
That's true. Good point.
There wasn't anybody that thought that Tony deserved to be fired or that didn't want to play for him and didn't think it was wrong.
Right.
I mean, maybe there was somebody, but no one I talked to. And yet the Glazers were wrong. They were trying to hire Bill Parcells. That fell through. They reached back, overpaid for John Gruden, and they caught lightning in a bottle. They won a Super Bowl. So, problem solved. Now, it's just not that easy to do. But no, I don't think there was anybody short of maybe the owner that and some of the things the owner said in the press conference about, yeah, I made the decision during that game or after that game. It's like, woo, that's any one game, man. It's kind of hard to, to say that it's his fault when your quarterback's out there, with the ball in his hand. But I do think it's the same thing. Is it really that different than, say, Dan Reeves with John Elway? I mean, Dan Reeves was a hell of a coach, right? Yeah. And then there came a point where he couldn't get a Super Bowl win with John Elway. They let him go. They fired him. And Mike Shanahan came in and won too, right? So
I tell you, Rick, it's a rough business. I don't think funny thing is when you think back about Josh Allen, and the same thing with John Harbaugh, it's the narrative for both of those guys is like, well, you had generational quarterbacks and you couldn't win it all. But I would throw back at them. Yeah, Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Two-time MVP.
Josh Allen, top 3 quarterback in the league. Most of those years, those guys ran into the best quarterback in football, which is Patrick Mahomes for most of the last 7 years or whatever.
That's right.
And then you look at the game the other day, whether you agree with the calls or not. I kind of think the officials got all the calls right the other day. I wasn't crazy about one of the pass interferences, the first one, but I thought the second one was pass interference. I thought the interception was an interception. But you could argue the other way. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Sean McDermott, this morning I'm waking up like I got fired because officials screwed me out of a game.
Yeah,
that's how close this thing is.
That's how he felt. I mean, he was pretty adamant after the game, especially when the pool report was read to him. He disagreed with. And there's one thing about the NFL that's going on right now. Like nobody has known what a catch is since Bert Emanuel, had one taken away from him in the NFC Championship game with Tony Dungy in the Rams, against the Rams. But aside from that, what I can't stand that they have done, Tom, is that now when you get into these 2-minute overtime, whatever it is, right? They're waiting for 60 minutes, I guess, to come on. It's handled by some nameless, faceless guy or gal in New York, right?
Right.
Who says, not a catch, move on. Like, I mean, we can't take a couple minutes to put the guy over there with the video, tape and look at it a few times for something that important, that big in the game?
No, I thought McDermott was right there. I thought they
right?
should have taken a little more time with it. I still, like I said, when I watched it live and when I watched the immediate replay, I thought that's an interception. I felt pretty strongly that, and I still do, that it was an interception. However, with that much on the line, let's take a minute and really
just a
break
minute
it down.
Yeah. Right. And you might not, everybody sees a different thing. If you're a Bills fan, you see a catch. If you're anybody else, you say he didn't survive the ground, which is a dumb term to begin. What do you mean didn't survive the ground? Like, what does that mean? I'm down, I have the ball. I mean, that's
right.
You know what I mean? Like, that was always the definition of, is he down? His knee's down. He's got the ball. What happens after that shouldn't matter, should it?
Right. Now, I mean, I
Never
understand
did,
what
but
you, I
in the
understand
history
what
of
you're
the
going
NFL,
for.
it hasn't mattered until now. It matters.
Right.
So if you make a one-handed grab, right, pull it in, roll through the end zone, and a metal spike goes through your spine, and a camera guy jumps on top of you, and the ball comes loose, did you not complete the catch? I mean, what are we talking about here? I don't know. It's just weird. But
so if you're Buffalo, who do you want as your?
Well,
does Brian Daboll work for you or no?
I mean, I don't know you're going to get a different result necessarily. I think Daboll. I think the quarterback has to be okay with this, and I think he's a little upset that they fired his coach, probably because of the way he played.
Right.
But Daboll makes sense in that Josh has had success with him. I don't know if he's a great head coach. I've met him once. He's a great guy. I don't blame him for the Giants situation. Like, I don't know why the Giants still have the same GM, and apparently Harbaugh's got all the power now, so maybe it doesn't matter. But when you trade away Saquon Barkley and a quarterback, and after a while, it can't be just the coach. But I'm guessing that's what Buffalo does. I mean, do you want you're going to hire Mike McCarthy? Really? They
had what's his name? Kelly, the offensive coordinator, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they could go that Brady, you mean?
Yeah,
Joe
Brady. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
They could go that route. So it's probably either going to be Brady on the staff, or maybe they bring back a Daboll who has head coaching experience at least. So I don't know. Buffalo's not unlike Pittsburgh. Like, I wasn't joking that much about McDaniel. Like, I just don't think McDaniel would work in the Steel City. I just don't.
Probably not. Yeah.
You had the jaw, and then you had Tomlin, you tough guy, and then you had Chuck Noll, who scared people anyway.
He's the scariest of the three, probably.
And so, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if Mr. Miami Vice here is going to really,
DJ Mike
mold.
McDaniel.
Yeah. So
how will Harbaugh do with the Giants? I'm not sold on Jackson Dart, but
he'll do. I think that's the key right there. I think you hit it on the head. Is that, do we know that Jackson Dart isn't going to be living in a blue tent the rest of his life? Like, he goes home and there's a blue tent there out front. Like, the guy, he can't keep his head screwed on because he keeps banging it into people. Until you can learn to protect yourself at the NFL level, you're going to be today's version of Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, like I said, but for one more week, John Harbaugh could be the coach of the Buffalo Bills. And if you're telling me I got a choice between, Josh Allen and Jackson Dart, I mean, I'm going to Buffalo.
I mean, the word was they were going to fire John Harbaugh at some point as soon as they lost the game. But if their kicker could have made a field goal against the Steelers in the last regular season game, it would have bought him a week. And then, John Harbaugh might be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
Right? Well, and I think Lamar is a different bird. It sounded like there was reports, and I've lived this, and when you start hearing things, when there's an anonymous story by legitimate reporters, I'm not talking about these fan sites and these, things that you may not trust, but when somebody that's covered the team for a while, like Mike Preston, comes out and writes, there's trouble here. Right. There's trouble with Lamar Jackson, falls asleep in meetings, stays up late, can't meet till later in the morning. Just little jabs here and there, right? Just knocking down the quarterback. That came from inside the building, right?
Right.
That's not imagined. And typically it comes from coaching staff, right? And so what happened after the end of the season? The owner didn't want to fire John Harbaugh. He said, you have to fire your offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. And Harbaugh said, no, I'm not doing it. And then that's how he got fired.
Mm.
So it almost feels like, and look, sometimes the narrative's right and sometimes it's not, but it almost feels like whoever goes in there is going to have a Lamar Jackson issue. Like, you're going to have to learn what he's about, how to stimulate him, all of that. I mean, he's still a 2-time MVP. He's a great talent. And hell, one year, what do you have, like 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions or something ridiculous like that? But in the postseason, they never got it done. And that's some of that's on the coaching. So it's a good job, not a great job. But I mean, I think the great job is Buffalo. I think that's where the monster is now. Mahomes is going to come back. You're going to have Joe Burrow come back.
Yeah, imagine if I told you before the year that the AFC Championship game will not have Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. You wouldn't have believed it.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Joe Burrow. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's really something. But these young quarterbacks, Drake, I don't know. I think if memory serves, I got to vote for MVP this year. I get to do the AP voting. I think I voted Drake May as my MVP and not Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I mean, Drake May's had a terrific year. I mean, I don't know how much you can consider the schedule. They did not play a great regular season schedule, whereas Stafford did. Yeah, Stafford did play. Like, they had to go against San Francisco.
The NFC West was brutal. Yeah,
go against the Seahawks twice. But Drake May, what a terrific season. That's the other thing too. When you look back at these, the guys that were drafted in that draft, Caleb Williams, right, was in that draft. Jaden Daniels was in that draft.
Unbelievable.
Drake May, it's pretty exciting. So
yeah, and Clyde Christensen, who was a quarterback's coach here twice, including with Brady, moved on and quote unquote retired after one season. While he was here, a couple seasons, but he went on to be an offensive consultant at North Carolina in Drake May's last 2 years. He told me that this guy is one of the best humans that he's ever coached, but says he's just like a phenomenal athlete, can do anything. Of course, his family is very athletic. Brother played, won a national championship at North Carolina, all of that. But he is such a huge Drake May fan. It's unbelievable that the New England Patriots can go all those years, 20 years with Tom Brady, go to 10 Super Bowls, win 7 or 6 of them, whatever. And then a couple years later, you come back and you end up with a Drake May. Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable is not the word I would use. The word I would use would start with bull and end with another word. Like,
spoken like an AFC guy.
That's serious. No, like, that's not right, man. Come on.
It's not fair, man.
It's just not fair.
Yeah.
You don't get to be that good. You don't get to be that good.
And he wasn't the number one pick. Caleb wasn't. I think Caleb's going to be great. I mean, the throw Caleb Williams makes, they should have stopped the game and just said it's over, right? Too bad they had to play the overtime.
I watched that game, and I'm sitting there saying, like, Sean McVay, he's not going to get fired, but the way he handled the last drive of that game in regulation, the way he handled down the stretch, I'm like, this is coaching malpractice, what Sean McVay's done here. Like, he does not deserve to win this game.
No.
And I'm thinking, and as soon as Caleb made that throw, I'm thinking, like, good, you know what? Sean McVay's going to get crushed for everything.
He will, yeah.
And somehow he got bailed out because of the way the overtime went. But that play, I remember my wife came in to watch. She just watched that last play. Oh. And she's like, am I wrong? Is that one of the greatest plays ever? And I'm like, yes. But it's funny how it turns out. Like, I don't know where you rank that among the greatest plays of the last 10 years, because it ultimately didn't mean anything.
Is it the Carlton Fisk home run?
A good analogy. It wasn't there. There was a guy for the Mets that made like an unbelievable catch in a playoff game years ago, like robbed somebody. Yeah. But they end up losing to the Cardinals, and it's like, oh well, right. So who wins this? Does Drake May win this weekend? They have to, right?
Yeah,
they're playing a guy who hasn't thrown a pass since
Jared Stidham
since the 8th grade picnic. Right?
That's right. I think he was in our Turkey Bowl one year with me and you, Tom, if I'm not mistaken. That might have been the last time I pulled a hammy that day.
Did not complete 50% of those passes.
No one could. But yeah, I listen, and I've always said this, like, the worst quarterback, the third quarterback on whatever team you want to call, right, is still an NFL quarterback. Like, they just don't give these jobs away, right?
Right.
I mean, Vrabel used to joke that if you want your starting quarterback to play every game, just have Jared Stidham as your backup, because he never gets in the game, right? And he hasn't for about 2 years now, or 3 years. But he's still an NFL quarterback. And they have a very good defense. And Sean Payton's an incredibly good coach and play caller. And I'm telling you, this idea, and it's not good, right, that you lose your starting quarterback on that play of all things, but this idea that, like, well, they have no chance. Well, yeah, they do. They have a chance. I mean, they're at home. They have a really good defense. They'll run, Peyton will do a few things, And he's a professional quarterback that's played a long time. Now, he hasn't been in a game, and this is a hell of a place to start, right? And it's not the same as Nick Foles because he had 3 games when Carson Wentz got hurt. I think he started before the playoffs. But, would it completely shock me? No, it really wouldn't shock me if.
Well,
if
the
Denver
advantage
won
they
the game.
have is that he had a whole week to get ready. It's not like
Yes,
it's not like
yes. You
Bo
win the
Nix got hurt
game
on
in the first
play of the
quarter.
game.
Yeah. So he'll get reps and and all of that. But man, just what a terrible break. When you're just basically trying to center the ball for a field goal.
I thought it was a joke when I saw that game. Like, Bo
Right?
Nix broke his ankle. I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
real. That's
No.
a fake tweet.
Right. It didn't make any sense. He just stood there and did the interview after the game
I know.
with somebody, from Fox or whatever.
Yeah.
CBS, whatever. Yeah, it was nuts, man. But hey, so who do you like? Who do you think is going to be the Super Bowl?
I mean, I'm telling you, man, something tells me the Rams that Stafford's going to have
Really?
a
Okay.
game. But
All
boy,
right.
that defense is really good. If I had to pick, if I was all the money I had in the world, I go with chalk. I'd go Seattle and New England here. But
Yeah, that's the way I would go too.
but there's some like I'd be nervous if I'm
Something about
facing- Matt
Sam Darnold,
Stafford
man.
Can play, man.
Yeah. It's something. I'm just waiting for the Darnold collapse here somewhere.
Yeah, that's
somehow.
right. That's the other thing. I'm waiting for he was great until he threw 4 interceptions in the NFC
The
Championship.
championship game, yeah. That's going to be the thing, right? And I still, in the NFL is so weird, right? Like you take a snapshot of any part of a season, right? We're sitting here now, and it's going to be probably Seattle and probably New England, right? But just a couple months ago, still the greatest win, excuse me, that the Bucs had this year. They go into Seattle undermanned, right? Emeka Ibuka as their top receiver, linemen missing, all of that, and they get to an absolute shootout between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and somehow, Seattle's going to win it on the last drive. Ball gets tipped up, intercepted, field goal, they win, right? And then the Bucs beat San Francisco at home, and they, and then you just look a few weeks later, a couple months later, it's like, wow, that team didn't lose. Like they lost like 2 more games the whole year.
What it all shows me is just the NFL season is incredibly long. Because
really long.
there were times during this season, I'm being told, I'm just not like, you could look back at this season and say there were moments where I thought, you know what, I think the Bucs could get to a Super Bowl. I actually do.
You and a lot of people, yeah.
They could get to Super Bowl. And then there was like a half a minute there where I'm like, I think the Chargers might be the best team in football. Like they're really good.
Sure.
And then it was Seattle for a while. And then I'm like, wow, Josh Allen's going to come around. And then at some point you're like, the Eagles, they still know how to win these games.
That's
like,
right.
Literally,
hey, maybe Aaron
Rams.
Rodgers has a little magic left in him.
That's right. Like you go through, and then there were teams like you said, like the Bucs who just fell off the face of the earth at one point, and then the Eagles. Like if those two teams played each other, I don't know who would win at this point. If they were to play right now,
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
they're both
and like
kinda messed
Ibuka,
up.
like there was a minute there where Ibuka, I'm like, oh, Ibuka's going to be Rookie of the Year,
Yeah,
and then
should have been.
there's
Yeah,
like
came
an
real
APB
close. and
at
then-
him the last 2 months, So
Yeah, that'll happen when if you're the lead dog, right? So
Yep.
you got a lot of attention. But no, it's been a long, very long NFL season, long college season. I want to talk about that. Why don't we bring you back, because I want to talk a little college football as well, and also what Baker Mayfield has to say about the Falcons' new head coach, who used to be his ex-head coach.
Yeah, let's talk about that, pal.
Got to get into that, buddy, chief, pal.
You got it, Ace.
It's Tom Jones, Tampa Bay Times. You can hear about him, read about him, listen to his podcast, as a matter of fact, poynter.org. And he's going to be good enough to join us again tomorrow. Hey, make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find the beautiful Navitimers, the Chronomat watches, the NFL collection, 32-team watches while supplies last. Watches for your wife, your girlfriend. It is a great store, second floor of International Plaza, Breitling Boutique International Plaza. Again, if you don't know, it's in International Plaza. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. My thanks to Tom Jones, for Steve Verstick. I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.